Hi students, welcome to lesson number 22, Social Institutions, Marriage and Kinship. Let us begin by a brief introduction of the most important, universal and ancient social institution called marriage. Marriage is the foundation of the family. Marriage and family are responsible for the innumerable kinship ties found in society. Kinship is a social relationship based on real or fictitious consanguinity or blood relationship. Kin members are those members who have descended from a common ancestor. Kinship also has an influence on marriage and family. Kinship is considered to be the most basic bond based upon reproduction, which binds people together. Let us talk about the objectives. 1. To define and know the meaning of marriage and kinship. 2. To explain the importance and characteristics of these institutions. 3. To explain the types of marriage and kinship. 4. To understand the rules of marriage and kinship. The definition and meaning of marriage. Marriage is universal. Its origin, rituals in it and its significance differ from one society to another and from one group to the another within a society. According to Lundberg, marriage consists of rules and regulations which define rights, duties and privileges of husband and wife with respect to each other. Marriage is also defined as the socially sanctioned union of male and female for the purpose of procreation. According to Westermarck, marriage is more or less durable union between male and female lasting till after the birth of offspring. According to Malinowski, marriage is a contract for the production and maintenance of children. From the above definitions, we can state that marriage is considered to be a union between male and female which is socially sanctioned. This union is understood to be permanent in nature unless dissolved by divorce or death of with either partner. Marriage is also the license of parenthood as it is considered to be socially sanctioned union between male and female which is institutionalized. It is through the institution of marriage that a family is set up. Marriage is considered to be the basis for the formation of family. In addition to sexual gratification and license of parenthood, marriage is given social approval, becomes a legal contract and also defines the relationship between husband and wife and parents and children. Marriage is performed in public in a sacred manner, receiving the blessings of religion as a sacrament. Therefore, marriage may be defined as a socially sanctioned union of one or more men with one or more women with the expectation that they will play the role of husband and wife. Marriage is personal relationship involving mutual rights and obligations. It is a means of regularizing sexual relations. It is an institution fundamental to the organization of the family. Let us look into the characteristics of marriage. 1. Marriage is universal. Marriage is found in all societies from time immemorial in primitive and literary societies. It is enforced as social rule in some societies. Marriage is sacrament among Hindus in India. 2. Marriage is a relationship between a man and women. It is a relationship between one or more men and one or more women. 3. Marriage is based on some rules. There exist certain norms in every society who should marry whom in what manner is laid down in rules. 4. Marital bond is enduring. Marriage is long lasting bond between husband and wife and lasts forever, less broken by divorce or death of either partner. 5. Marriage requires social approval. Marriage is performed publicly and it is approved by society. Without social approval, marriage is not registered as a legal contract. 6. Marriage is associated with the religious ceremony. There are many rites, rituals, customs and practices. It receives the blessings of religion and the sanction of law. Marriage involves the rights, obligations for husband and wife. Let us look into the rules of marriage. Societies lay down certain rules to be followed for entering into marital relationship. The marriage norms provide some guidelines by which individuals can choose their marriage partners. These norms are to be maintained in order and organization of a society. In order to differentiate between one's blood relatives and others, the incest taboo, that is the prohibition of sexual relations with a certain set of kin members, and certain restrictions are laid on the choice of marriage partners. For this reason, marriage rules are followed. They are endogamy and exogamy. 1. Endogamy rule of marriage. It is the rule by which an individual has to marry within a socially defined group, that is a caste, class or a tribe. Endogamy is referred in order to maintain purity of the group, its homogeneity, its numerical strength, its unity, and to keep its property intact. Among tribes, the fear of strangers prevents people from selecting marriage partners from outside the group. Caste endogamy is prescribed among the Hindus to preserve purity of the caste. Hence, marriages within the group are preferred. 2. Exogamy rule of marriage. It is the rule of marriage by which an individual has to marry outside a socially defined group. Exogamy is compatible with the incest taboo which exists in all societies. This taboo forbids marriage and sexual relations between close blood relatives. Every family is an organized group in which members occupy a definite set of statuses and interact according to some norms. Without incest taboos, there would be confusion in different status, roles and relationships. In Hindu religion, every individual has to marry outside his gotra because people of the same gotra are considered to be blood relatives from the paternal side. Exogamy enables men to establish contacts and relationships which foster a sense of social solidarity. In northern states, a girl and a boy from the same village are not permitted to marry because the village is considered to be one unit. Preferential or prescriptive rules of endogamy and exogamy. The preferential and prescriptive rules of exogamy and endogamy leads to different types of marriages. An individual may choose to select a marriage partner within a given circle or may be bound to choose from a given circle or a particular relative. They are as follows: 1. Cross cousin marriage, 2. Parallel cousin marriage, 3. Levirate, 4. Sororate. 1. Cross cousin marriage. In this marriage, two individuals who are children of siblings of opposite sex enter into marriage bond. For example, a man marries his mother's brother's daughter of his father's sister's daughter. It is called cross cousin marriage. 2. Parallel cousin marriage. In this marriage, two individuals who are children of siblings of same sex, that is, if a man marries his mother's sister's daughter or father's brother's daughter, it is called parallel cousin marriage. 3. Levirate marriage. It is the practice of marrying the deceased husband's brother. This practice is preferred due to the desire of preserving the family name, property and for providing security to wife and children. 4. Sororate marriage. This is the practice of marrying the deceased wife's sister. This is to avoid payment of bride price and also for the protection of children. Let us look into the types of marriage. Marriage is classified on the basis of number of partners into monogamy and polygamy. Let us discuss the above mentioned. 1. Monogamy. It is the practice of one man marrying one woman. This is accepted universally and it is the prescribed preferred marriage. This type of marriage preserves family harmony, restricting the distribution of property and provides emotional security for the children. Monogamy is the order of the time in the most of the contemporary societies. 2. Polygamy. This is the marriage between a member of one sex and two or more members of the opposite sex. In this marriage, an individual would have more than one spouse at a time. Polygamy is of two types, 1. Polygyny and 2. Polyandry. 1. Polygyny, it is the practice of one man marrying more than one woman at a time. This practice was prevalent in ancient India. Muslim men are permitted to marry 4 women at a time. There are reasons laid down for such marriage. Reason for the practice of polygyny is when there are surplus women over men, when sex ratio is disproportionate, the need for more number of wives to help in the fields and in rearing of children makes men marry more than one woman. Polygyny is subdivided into two, 1. Sororal polygyny and non-sororal polygyny. Sororal polygyny, in which the co-wives are sisters, the blood relatives. 2. Non-sororal polygyny is in which wives of man are not sisters, non-blood relative. B. Polyandry, it is the practice in which one woman marrying more than one man at a time. Polyandry is less common than polygyny. When men outnumber women, poverty seems to be the main cause of polyandry. This practice is found among Toda tribes. It is found in some societies to preserve family property and maintain the family solidarity. This type of marriage is subdivided into two, 1. Fraternal polyandry, 2. Non-fraternal polyandry. 1. Fraternal polyandry is in which the co-husbands are brothers, the blood relative members. Non-fraternal polyandry is in which co-husbands are not brothers, non-related through blood. Group marriage. In this marriage, several men marry several women, which were considered as the original form of polyandry. Now, let us study the functions of marriage. 1. Marriage leads to formation of family. Marriage is essential for the family to come into existence. Sexual satisfaction leads to establishment of family. A man and woman living together outside the union of marriage are socially condemned. 2. Marriage regulates sex life. It is the powerful instrument for regulating the sex life of the individuals. It lays down certain norms which control the sexual desires. 3. Marriage forges a new social link. Two families join the bond of marriage in which enhance the status of each group. This brings solidarity to the families. 4. Marriage shoulders responsibility on couple. It is through marriage the roles and obligations of the parents are defined. It lays down rules that each child must have a father and mother who are bound to take care of the child. Let us look into the changes in marriage institution. All societies are undergoing changes due to various factors. In traditional time, marriage was performed strictly by parents. Today, children are selecting their partners. There is change in the way people perceive marriage, organize ceremonies and enter into relationships. There is lot of changes in the pattern of marriage. Modern society, we find live-in relationship, marriages do not long last. There are various reasons for changes in marriage institution. 1. The independence choice of selecting the partner. 2. Changes in age at marriage. 3. Increase in divorce rate. 4. Changes in values, etc. Let us start with the meaning and definition of kinship. Kinship is social relationship based on real or fictive consanguinity. Kin members are considered to be those members who have descended from a common ancestor. Kinship is the basic bond for reproduction which binds people together. Blood relationship binds people and their relationship is known as consanguineous relationship. The other kind of relationship which is formed in the life of individual is brought about by marriage is called affinal kinship. This is brought about by socially or legally defined marital relationship. Hence, social recognition of the bond is important. Thus, parent and child are kin. A kinship system is not a group like family, nor is a set of institutionalized rules like marriage. According to Murdoch, kinship is defined as a structured system of relationship in which individuals are bound to one another by complex interlocking and ramifying ties. A few kinship bonds isolated from others may unite individuals in social groups like the nuclear family. Let us look into the types of kinship. Two types of kinship bonds are universally recognized, the consanguineal and the affinal. The consanguineal kin group, where the members who share blood or related through blood relationship are called consanguineal kin members or consanguineal kinship ties. In a family, all members are consanguineal kins excepting who are brought from outside through marriage. 2. Affinal kin members. The members who enter into marital bond form the affinal group. Marriage brings about affinal kinship. When marriage of an individual takes place, a whole chain of relationships are creating, linking the two families together. Descent. It is the cultural rule which affiliates an individual at birth with a particular group of relatives. The incest taboo, which is recent universally, prevents marriage within the nuclear family. The brother and mother cannot have the same kinsmen. If the child were to be affiliated with the relatives of both the parents, the number of relatives would multiply and would become unwieldy in size. Therefore, it is felt that it is necessary to restrict the size of the kin group. To accomplish this, there are three principal ways of primary rules of descent. 1. Patrilineal descent. In this rule of descent, the child is affiliated with the consanguineal kin group of the father and the mother's kin group is discarded. 2. Matrilineal descent. In this rule of descent, the child is affiliated with the consanguineal kin group of mother and the father's kin group is discarded. 3. Bilateral descent. In this rule of descent, some of the members of the father's kin group and some of the mother's kin group are excluded and the child affiliates with a selected group of relatives. In few societies, two rules are combined and use patrilineal and matrilineal descent alternatively. When patrilineal and matrilineal are applied together and not alternatively, it is known as double descent. Here, the person is affiliated at the same time with the patrilineal kin and his father and the matrilineal kin of his mother. The kindred. The presence of bilateral descent kin groups technically is called kindred. Lineage. It is a consanguineal kin group produced by either rule of unilineal descent and it includes only those persons who can actually trace their common relationship through a specific series of genealogical links. Sib. It is the unilineal kin group who cannot trace their relationship, but can acknowledge a common descent from a known or a fictional ancestor. The group is called a clan or a sib. This group includes several lineages. Phratry. This is the group in which two or more clans recognize a purely conventional unilineal bond of kinship is called as a phratry. Moiety. The society having two sibs or phratries in which every person is a member in any one of the two. The dual division is known as moiety. Let us study the degrees of kinship. All individuals in a society are bound to different members of his family through a series of kinship ties. Because of these ties, every individual has close relation and distant relatives. Every individual generally belongs to the family of orientation into which he is born. He, after entering the marriage, forms the family of procreation. Hence, for an individual, father, mother, brothers and sisters in the family are of orientation and spouse and children are family of procreation are his primary relatives. These primary relatives have their own primary relatives and these primary relatives of the primary relatives are called secondary relatives. Primary relatives of an individual's primary relatives are his secondary relatives. For example, father's father, mother's brother and so on. The primary relatives of an individual's secondary relatives are his tertiary relatives. For example, father's sister or maternal uncle's wife. These are the third category relatives known as tertiary relatives. The kinship ties result in a set of culturally patterned relationships between kinsmen and use of particular kin terms to address particular relatives. The terms reflect the attitude towards the kinsmen. Let us look into the kinship usages. The common kinship usages are deference, avoidance and joking relations. Deference, it is the show of respect towards a particular group of relatives. This is reflected in the any of individual behaves in the presence of elder members of the family, like standing up when elders come in and so on. Avoidance, the close intimacy or any kind of interaction between certain relatives like mother-in-law and son-in-law, daughter-in-law and father-in-law is avoided. Many explanations about this behavior pattern of relatives are offered by sociologists. It is the mechanism to preserve peace in the family. Therefore, her interaction with other members of the family is restricted so as to limit the amount of her outside influence on the family. Joking relations. In this pattern of behavior, an extreme degree of familiarity due to the feeling of equality and mutual reciprocity. These are found among certain kinds of relatives, like between a man and his wife's younger sister. Kinship terminology. Kinship terminology is the system used in languages to refer to the persons to whom an individual is related differently and use different system of kinship terminology. Kinship terminology, the term of address used in different languages for different relatives, and the term of reference used to identify the relationship of these relatives to an individual. For example, some language distinguishes between affinal and consanguineal uncles, where others have only one word to refer to both a father and his brother. The kinship terminology has gender differences and differences between generations, between brother and sister and between a child and parent. According to Morgan, societies have kinship terminology, that is descriptive or classificatory. 1. Descriptive. This term is used to represent only one type of relation between two people, example brothers. 2. Classificatory. This term represents one of many different types of relationships, for example uncle. He would be father's brother, mother's brother, father's sister, husband and so on. Morgan observed that a descriptive term in one society could become a classificatory term in another society. For example, in some societies one would refer to many different people as mother, including the women who gave birth to an individual as well as her sister, father's sister and so on. Some societies have a separate word for each relative. 3. Denotative terminology. Kinship term applying only to relatives in a simple kinship category to define generation, sex and genealogical connection, for example mother. 4. Derivative term. This is the kinship term which is a compound of an elementary kin term and another sound or frame, for example sister-in-law, stepson, etc. We also refer to kin's term that one form of direct address and those that are in the form of indirect address. For example, father is direct whereas Raju's father is indirect. 5. Technonymy. Individuals are referred to only through indirect address and this is known as technonym. Let us study the characteristics and functions of kinship. The kin group is an important group for an individual apart from his immediate family. By virtue of the incest taboo, the husband and wife cannot belong to the same kin group. The consanguineal kin members are all related by blood and this bond unites the members during the times of need. The presence of all types of relatives was necessary to help the family in performing all functions. On certain occasions, the individual cannot get along without the presence of his relatives. In simple societies, where a person's problems are considered to be the problems of the entire group, if a person commits some wrong, the consequences of this affects the entire group. Therefore, abiding by the general norms and also the norms laid down by the kin members is considered to be absolutely essential for every individual. The members who are related as a result of marriage are treated as one's kin members. The two groups are considered to be merged into one, resulting in increased social solidarity, and both the groups would provide the mutual aid and security to its groups. We have studied the meaning and definitions of marriage and kinship. Marriage as a social institution has existed in society from time immemorial, and it is in general universal. Every human society throughout the world has regarded marriage as important for the welfare of society. Marriage is a basic social institution which establishes the family. Kin group is an important group for an individual apart from his immediate family.